Section 1 of A Boy's Will. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Savannah Harold. A Boy's Will by Robert Frost. Section 1. Part 1. Into My Own. The youth is persuaded that he will be rather more than less himself for having forsworn the world. Ghost House. He is happy in society of his choosing. My November Guest. He is in love with being misunderstood. Love and a Question. He is in doubt whether to admit real trouble to a place beside the hearth with love. A Late Walk. He courts the autumnal mood. Stars. There is no oversight of human affairs. Storm Fear. He is afraid of his own isolation. Wind and Window Flower. Out of the winter things he fashions a story of modern love. To the thawing wind. He calls on change through the violence of the elements. A Prayer in Spring. He discovers that the greatness of love lies not in forward-looking thoughts, flower gathering, nor yet in any spur it may be to ambition. Rose Begonias. He is no dissenter from the ritualism of nature. Asking for roses, nor from the ritualism of youth which is make-believe. Waiting, afield at dusk. He arrives at the turn of the year. In a Veil. Out of old longings he fashions a story. A Dream Pang. He is shown by a dream how really well it is with him. In Neglect. He is scornful of folk his scorn cannot reach. The Vantage Point. And again scornful, but there is no one hurt. Mowing. He takes up life simply with the small tasks. Going for Water. Part 2. Revelation. He resolves to become intelligible, at least to himself, since there is no help else. The trial by existence, and to know definitely what he thinks about the soul. In Equal Sacrifice. About love. The Tuft of Flowers. About fellowship. Spoils of the Dead. About death. Pan with Us. About art, his own. The Demurrage's Laugh. About science. Part 3. Now close the windows. It is time to make an end of speaking. A Line Storm Song. It is the autumnal mood with a difference. October. He sees days slipping from him that were the best for what they were. My Butterfly. There are things that can never be the same. Reluctance. Poem 1. Into My Own. One of my wishes is that those dark trees, so old and firm they scarcely show the breeze, were not, as 'twere, the merest mask of gloom, but stretched away unto the edge of doom. I should not be withheld, but that some day into their vastness I should steal away, fearless of ever finding open land, or highway where the slow wheel pours the sand. I do not see why I should e'er turn back, or those should not set forth upon my track, to overtake me who should miss me here, and long to know if still I held them dear. They would not find me changed from him they knew, only more sure of all I thought was true. End of Into My Own. Poem 2. Ghost House. I dwell in the lonely house I know, that vanished many a summer ago, and left no trace but the cellar walls, and a cellar in which the daylight falls, and the purple-stemmed wild raspberries grow. O'er ruined fences the grapevines shield, the woods come back to the mowing field. The orchard tree has grown one copse of new wood, and old where the woodpecker chops. The footpath down to the well is healed. I dwell with a strangely aching heart in that vanished abode there far apart, on that disused and forgotten road that has no dust bath now for the toad. Night comes, the black bats tumble and dart, the whippoorwill is coming to shout, and hush, and cluck, and flutter about. I hear him begin far enough away, full many a time to say his say, before he arrives to say it out. It is under the small, dim summer star. I know not who these mute folk are, who share the unlit place with me. Those stones out under the low-limbed tree doubtless bear names that the mosses mar. They are tireless folk, but slow and sad, though too close keeping are lass and lad, with none among them that ever sings, and yet, in view of how many things, as sweet companions as might be had. End of Ghost House. Poem 3. My November Guest. My sorrow when she's here with me thinks these dark days of autumn rain are beautiful as days can be. She loves the bare, the withered tree. She walks the sodden pasture lane. Her pleasure will not let me stay. She talks, and I am fain to list. She's glad the birds are gone away. She's glad her simple worsted gray is silver now with clinging mist. The desolate, deserted trees, the faded earth, the heavy sky, the beauties she so truly sees. She thinks I have no eye for these, and vexes me for reasons why. Not yesterday I learned to know the love of bare November days, before the coming of the snow, but it were vain to tell her so, and they are better for her praise. End of My November Guest. Poem 4. Love and a Question. A stranger came to the door at eve, and he spoke the bridegroom fair. He bore a green white stick in his hand, and for all burden, care. He asked with the eyes more than the lips, for a shelter for the night, and he turned and looked at the road afar, without a window light. The bridegroom came forth into the porch, with, "Let us look at the sky, and question what of the night to be, stranger, you and I." The woodbine leaves littered the yard, the woodbine berries were blue. Autumn, yes, winter was in the wind. Stranger, I wish I knew. Within, the bride in the dusk alone bent over the open fire, her face rose red with the glowing coal and the thought of the heart's desire. The bridegroom looked at the weary road, yet saw but her within, and wished her heart in a case of gold. and pinned with a silver pin. The bridegroom thought it little to give, a dole of bread, a purse, a heartfelt prayer for the poor of God, or for the rich, a curse. But whether or not a man was asked to mar the love of two by harboring woe in the bridal house, the bridegroom wished he knew. End of Love and a Question. Poem 5. A Late Walk. When I go through the mowing field, the headless aftermath, smooth laid like thatch with the heavy dew, half closes the garden path. And when I come to the garden ground, the whir of sober birds, up from the tangled of withered weeds, is sadder than any words. A tree beside the wall stands bare, but a leaf that lingered brown, disturbed, I doubt not, by my thought, comes softly rattling down. I end not far from my going forth, by picking the faded blue of the last remaining aster flower, to carry again to you. End of A Late Walk. Poem 6. Stars. How countlessly they congregate o'er our tumultuous snow, which flows in shapes as tall as trees, when wintry winds do blow, as if with keenness for our fate, our faltering few steps on, to white rest and a place of rest, invisible at dawn. And yet with neither love nor hate, those stars like some snow-white, Minerva's snow-white marble eyes, without the gift of sight. End of Stars. Poem 7. Storm Fear. When the wind works against us in the dark, and pelts with snow the lowest chamber window on the east, and whispers with a sort of stifled bark, the beast, "Come out! Come out!" It costs no inward struggle not to go. Ah, no! I count our strength, two and a child, those of us not asleep subdued to mark how the cold creeps as the fire dies at length, how drifts are piled, dooryard and road ungraded, till even the comforting barn grows far away, and my heart owns a doubt whether 'tis in us to arise with day, and save ourselves unaided. End of Storm Fear. Poem 8. Wind and Window Flower. Lovers, forget your love, and list to the love of these. She, a window flower, and he, a winter breeze. When the frosty window veil was melted down at noon, and the caged yellow bird hung over her in tune, he marked her through the pane, he could not help but mark, and only passed her by, to come again at dark. He was a winter wind, concerned with ice and snow, dead weeds and unmated birds, and little of love could know. But he sighed upon the sill, he gave the sash a shake, as witness all within, who lay that night awake. Perchance he half prevailed to win her for the flight, from the fire-lit looking-glass and warm stove-window light. But the flower leaned aside and thought of naught to say, and morning found the breeze 100 miles away. End of Wind and Window Flower. End of section.